Good day. Today is another day that the Lord has made, and let us be glad and enjoy in it. Today, too, we are going to study history, and as we've been doing every day, today, the learners, the students, I think everything is set. All the needed materials are ready for the study of history today. And we are going to look at many interesting topics today, and I'm sure by the end of it you will enjoy it, and everything should be set, because at the end of the lesson I'll ask you to do short exercise. We have strand, that is historical inquiry and writing, and the sub strand, nature and scope of history. Unit 1, we have introduction and importance of studying history, and we are going to look at lesson 6, which is branches and types of history. Our learning indicators today will be, by the end of the lesson, learners will be able to explain the meaning of branches and types of history, identify the main branches of history, describe different types of history with examples, discuss how different branches of history overlap and connect with each other, and demonstrate appreciation of the importance of studying from different perspectives. These are the learning indicators that at the end of the lesson, the learners or students should be able to do, so that you know whether you understood the lesson, whether you should proceed or whether you should repeat it. So be ready for the next action. Now let's look at the introduction, because every topic we have to get the introduction. History is not studied in only one way. It is divided into different branches and types to help us understand past events from various perspectives. Some branches focus on political leadership and governance, while others examine social life, culture, economy, religion, and technology. Studying the branches and types of history helps learners to appreciate how the past is organized and analyzed to explain present-day society and guide future decisions. That is whether we are going to look at the economy, the religion, the technology, social life, to know what they did in the past, so that whether you should improve it this time and know what you should do in the near future. And here, do you want to rely on only one branch and type to understand the full meaning of history? I'm sure no. You need to look at different sources, different perspectives, different branches. And do you also want to appreciate how the past is organized to explain present-day society and to guide you in the future decision? Yes, that is what history seeks to do. So history will guide us to take proper decisions in future. So we now look at the branches and types of history. History as a subject is said to be the study of the human past, time and space. The human past exists in different forms and varieties. In this lesson, we will be identifying different types of history. We will discuss economic, political, cultural, social, and other branches of history. We have many branches. That this is what we will discuss today. Our focus is to appreciate the fact that the history of human can be viewed from different perspectives. Branches of history are different areas of human life that historians study to know how these branches connect with each other. The following are some of the branches of history. And I've told you we have many branches, but today we are going to look at this. So the first one that we are going to look at is political history. What is political history? This deals with the rise and fall of states, the reign of chiefs and queens, the administration of civilian and military government, wars and alliances, and relations between states in the past. That is the study of government, leadership, laws, wars, and political movement. It helps learners or students understand how power is acquired and used. This political history helps students to know how people acquire power, how power is wielded, and how they were able to use that power. That is what all that political history seeks to do. And then we look at the social history. Social history, we are talking about the branch of history which focuses on the daily lives of ordinary people. That is how individuals, families, communities, and social classes have interacted with one another throughout history. It studies human experiences, including family life, leisure, festivals, rites of passage, social movement, outbreak of diseases and famine, migration, urbanization, and others. This is where we are going to look at the social life of ordinary people, the group of people, the societies, the communities, and what it has impacted in their life. We look at social movement, what caused them to move from this place to this direction. This is why we are going to look at. And economic history is also another branch of history which examines how people produce, distribute, and use resources. That is the economic aspect of the past. It tells us how people have earned their livelihood, the tools and technology they used, and impact of wealth distribution on society, and how they cope with the economic challenges of their time. It explains wealth, poverty, and development. What did the people, what did they use to produce their goods? Are we using those things today? Are we improving on it? What helped them to solve people problems, challenges with the economic problems over there? The challenges that they face, were they able to solve it? If they didn't, how are we going to improve upon it? Then we come to cultural history, which is also another branch which is closely related to social history. This deals with the beliefs, tradition, religion, festivals, art, values, and their way of life that shape their cultural identity. That is how people have sustained their cultures throughout history. This helps preserve identity and heritage. We say culture is dynamic, and are we going to rely on the past to know the present and to shape our life in future? Then we come to diplomatic history, where it is also a branch of history that studies relations between states or nations. It focuses on how countries communicate, negotiate, cooperate, and resolve conflicts through peaceful means rather than war. That is an attempt to understand how countries interacted with each other and how they resolved conflicts and negotiated for peace. This also helps to understand how peace is maintained between nations. Peace is very important, and we learned diplomatic history to know what is happening today, what they did to maintain peace in the previous. That is why we are going to look. And we are now going to look at interconnectedness and overlapping of different branches of history. And we say history is not studied in isolated parts. We can't use one source or perspective to study history. The different branches of history are interconnected and often overlap because human activities are complex and affect many aspects of life at the same time. And we say interconnectedness here means that events in one branch of history are influenced by events in other branches. A single historical event can be understood properly only when we consider multiple historical perspectives. For you to understand deep meaning of history, we have to look at many branches because they are saying they are overlapping, they are interconnected. That is what we are going to look at. From the how the branches of history overlap. That is political history and economic history. We are going to look at how political history and economic history overlap. And we are saying that political decisions often affect a country's economy. For example, colonial policies in Ghana were political decisions that the rules that they set for the people, ordinary people, they were considered to be political, but they mainly serve economic interests such as cocoa, gold, and timber production. When we look at all decisions that they made those days, it affected our economy. That is why we are saying that it overlapped, it is interconnected. It was political decision do, but affected the economy like cocoa, gold, and other resources that we have in Ghana here. And then we look at social history and cultural history. Social practices, they shape culture, and culture influence how people live and relate. For example, festivals in Ghana are cultural events, but they also reflect social organization, beliefs, and values of the people. Then we have economic history and social history. Economic activities affect people. Why? Lifestyle and social status. Why? For example, the introduction of cash crops that we learn when we talk of cash crop, for example, cocoa, it changed family structures, labor system, and social relations. Those who were able to practice cocoa farms were able to get money, and it changed the family structures. People employed people to work in their farms, and they earned money from those things. And then we also look at religious history and cultural history. And we see here, religion influences customs, morals, and traditions. Why do we see so? Let's look at this. Christianity and Islam, for example, in Ghana, affected naming ceremony or naming systems, education, marriage, and festivals. And when you talk of a marriage, this time if you want to marry and you are a Christian or Islam, well, look at how they perform the rites as compared to the olden days. It has affected all these things. It has changed. I think many of you will be agreeing with me that maybe it is because it's good to do it. That is why you are doing it. Because we copied the good ones and then neglect the one that we think will not help. And then we come to the importance of considering different perspectives when learning history. This one is also very important because before you can understand the historical events, unless you compare different branches, that is different perspectives, and say this one, it helps students gain understanding of historical events. When you compare different branches, you understand historical events well. It also prevents one-sided interpretation of history, that we cannot use only one source or branch to interpret history, else it will be one-sided, it will be biased in doing all these things. It also encourages critical thinking and analysis. Once you use different branches and perspectives, you will begin to think deeply before you come to the conclusion, before you come to the decision that you have to take. You compare many branches that will help you to develop critical thinking and analysis. It also shows how decisions in one area of life affect other areas. That is why we are saying it is overlap. And the last one I said, it helps learners to connect the past with the present and the future. They say we live History is where we live, and when you learn the past, it will help you to connect to the present and you know what decision to take in the future. So, in our conclusion, that is the summary, we say history is like a woven cloth. Each thread represents a branch of history, and together they form a complete picture of the past. That is, when you take history as a branch, as maybe a tree, you have the branches, the trunk, the roots, all play vital role before the tree can survive. That is how history is to do when we use different perspectives. So I think we've learned something today, and as I told you earlier, after the exercise you have to do assignment, and assignment we have history. Assignment 1, have history cannot be fully understood through one branch alone. We will discuss this statement with appropriate examples. That is 1. And 2, we have examine the contribution of political, social, and economic history to the understanding of Ghana's past. You do this exercise in the exercise book for us to know what you learned, if we have to proceed, if we have to repeat. This is what we are going to look at, being able to know what we have to do next. This brings us to the end of the lesson. I'm sure you've enjoyed every bit of it. May the good luck help us. And next time we will continue. Thank you for your attention.